All right, Governor Tim Walz. Walz. I keep hearing, oh, he's such a nice guy. He's a regular person. He's a Midwest. Forget all that stuff. He is a liar. He has been busted. I can't believe it. Did they do any vetting? This, if we had a healthy culture, a healthy country, this guy would not have passed any vetting. I don't care if you vet for an afternoon or 6 months. They should have caught this. This guy is guilty of stolen valor. Yes. The brand new Democrat vice presidential nominee, Governor Tim Walz. Walz or Walz? I don't really care. I don't think he's going to be around for that long. He shouldn't be after we discovered this.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Right there. It's one of the worst things you can do if you ever, well, were an American citizen, served in or out of uniform. He just claimed to have fought in a war, and he did not. He did not. Carried a weapon in war. You heard it. Just so we all know, all right? We can make sure those weapons of war that I carried in war are only carried in war. Well, he didn't, all right? I keep hearing about his National Guard career. And you can join the National Guard, and that's great. But the only place this guy deployed to was Italy, all right? Everybody needs to understand he did not go into combat, as he just said. He just said he went to war. And guess what? He just committed a federal crime, potentially. There was a crime against this. It's called the Stolen Valor Act of 2013. And it reads and follows, you can go to jail for a year, technically. However, with the intent to obtain money, property, or other tangible benefit, fraudulently holds oneself out to be a recipient of a decoration or medal described in the subsection, shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. All right. Now, granted, he didn't say anything about a medal, but let's go to the subsection, okay? I mean, look, they try to get the law to trap Trump. You look through all those medals. He said he was in war, so he would be eligible for the combat action ribbon, but he was never in combat. He was never in a combat zone, so he doesn't get one of those, but he just told everybody that he's eligible for one of those things, and I think we could take him to court. This, again, is the kind of thing in a healthy society they would say, sorry, we're going to have to go with Senator Kelly or Governor this guy, or not you, but you're an oh shucks kind of guy and you're ultra liberal. You know who's not having any of this, and I love it? JD Vance. A genuine, well, he's a veteran, and what's his name? Walz is a veteran. He just did not serve in combat. It's fine. Not everybody gets to serve in combat. JD Vance did, and he really let his new opponent have it.
He said that and he was making a point about gun control. He said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
Absolutely, stolen valor garbage. You know, your service was perfectly honorable, although we're hearing from a lot of guys in your unit, the guys you apparently abandoned, they went to Iraq, you stayed at home. We're going to talk to those guys in the next segment. All right, so this should be a huge issue. When you find out something like this big, well, it erupts, even for Democrats. Anybody remember Geraldine Ferraro? She was an all right lady, to be honest. I actually knew her, met her a few times, and I really liked her. She didn't do anything wrong, but her husband was in real estate, and the fake news thought they had her, and back then they weren't that fake, and they asked questions. When you run for office, you got to answer these questions, and boy, did they let her have it.
Considered part of a benefit that you had from your husband's business.
Well, let me go back again. You talk about the houses. two houses that we have, the one in Forest Hills and the one in Fire Island, were houses that were bought in 1961 and 65, long before I ever became a member of Congress.
Money from your husband's business helped you finance your own election. Subsequent to that, obviously...
well, let's stop there. First of all, and correct that. The money from my husband's business was my husband's money.
What was the original point of making that separation? Why bother?
Well, if you go back to 1978 for my first election, when it came time for me to run, I borrowed money because we'd been given, information from an attorney, inaccurate, improper information, that was legal.
So they went down every nook and cranny in her life. Did I mention she was the vice presidential nominee in 1984? They only won Minnesota, coincidentally. And there were about 150 reporters in the room pressing a Democrat. How about Dan Quayle? 1988, George H.W. Bush's running mate. Haven't seen him lately. He has decided to not endorse President Trump. You want Biden to win? You want Kamala to win? Anyway, 1988, this poor guy, he actually joined the Guard, stayed with the unit, but that wasn't good enough.
National Guard rather than serving in the Army, the Marines, the Navy, or going to Vietnam.
My brother and I, 2 years younger, both went into the service at the same time, about the same time. He went into the Marine Corps, and I went into the National Guard. I went into the National Guard, and I served 6 years there, 1969 through 1975.
Well, my point is, Mr. Bush was a war hero in World War II. You're tough on defense. Do you think it's going to be a handicap in the campaign that you didn't fight in Vietnam?
No, I do not.
The guy did everything he was supposed to do. Kind of the deer in the headlights thing, right? We can see why it didn't really work out there. But all right, back to Walz, whatever. I have a letter written by one of his colleagues in the National Guard, and it's pretty devastating. This letter was written 6 years ago and distributed widely in Minnesota, but not picked up by the media. Tim Walz has embellished and selectively omitted facts and circumstances of his military career for years. In 2005, a warning order was issued to the 125th Field Artillery Battalion, which included the position he was serving in, to prepare to be mobilized for active duty for a deployment in Iraq. Between the time the warning order was given and his retirement, he told the brigade command sergeant major not to worry, that he would be going on the mission. It appears that was a lie. On May 16th, 2005, he quit, betraying the country, leaving the 125th Field Artillery Battalion and its soldiers hanging, with his senior non-commissioned officer as the battalion prepared for war. Some other guy in the letter notes it dishonors those brave American men and women who did answer the nation's call and who continue to serve, fight, and unfortunately die in harm's way for us. He failed his country. He failed his state. He failed the Minnesota Army National Guard, the Field Artillery Battalion, and his fellow soldiers. Traitorous, fraudulent, and shameful. Those are Barron's is one of the guys. We saw him last night. We'll see another gentleman involved in this letter later in the show. Did they just think this was going to go away? They think they can get away with it because they control much of the media. And sorry, pal, you brought this up yourself yesterday, right? What an important experience, I guess, dodging Iraq was for you.
My dad served in the Army during the Korean War. With his encouragement, at 17, I joined the Army National Guard. For 24 years, I proudly wore the uniform of this nation. The National Guard gave me purpose. It gave me the strength of a shared commitment to something greater than ourselves.
What, the deployment to Italy? Come on, get real here. What did your compatriots say? Traitorous, fraudulent, and shameful. All right, well, so far, you do have the fake news fooled.
Walz grew up in rural Nebraska, served 24 years in the Army National Guard.
Tim Walz's path to the presidential ticket went from the Army National Guard.
He's a National Guard veteran that sources say appealed to the vice president.
All right, how about that, huh? They love it. They love it. They're just painting with broad strokes. But let's go to the official Minnesota website, the Minnesota Governor's Office, and what does it say? It says, after 24 years in the Army National Guard, Command Sergeant Major Walz retired from the 125 Field Artillery Battalion in 2005. That's not the way the National Guard tells it, and not the way Liz Collin tells it either.
Verified documents show the Army corrected his service record. Walz was reduced in rank to an E8 Master Sergeant after retirement and his conditional promotion.
How about that, huh? That's pretty wild. So they asked him about this. Some intrepid reporters were able to shout across the airport, hey, what's up with the stolen valor? Watch what happens.
Governor, Vance accused you of stolen valor. Your response? Governor!
Look at Kamala hanging out with the Girl Scouts. They can't even vote. They're hiding. I think he asked one more time. Pump up the volume.
Gonna try again.
Where's Walz?
Governor, Vance accused you of stolen valor. Your response?
My response is running away. If somebody accused me of stolen valor, I would have walked right across that tarmac and punched the guy in the nose. I probably wouldn't have hit him, but I would have straightened him out. This does bother me, and it bothers a lot of veterans, no matter where you served, okay? Perfectly honorable to deploy to Italy, and people get hurt in training all the time, and in peacetime, some really tough things happen. Why did he exaggerate? I think because he has no respect for us, the people. It may have started out middle-class Joe, but not anymore. And where did he get these wacko, weirdo ideas? And they are weird. And where the hell was he during the Black Lives Matter situation? Next, please. He was MIA, missing in action. This guy, during the George Floyd situation, we remember it started in Minneapolis. He was the governor. He didn't do a damn thing. We'll get to that in a moment, but look at the effect on the constituents. This guy was obsessed with trans issues and tampons in fourth grade boys' bathrooms. He should have been protecting this woman.
How was last night?
Scary. I live in the high-rise right back here, and I seen them as they came down Lake Street. But then they turned and started coming over here, and I'm sitting out looking out my window. And they went straight to Office Max, the dollar store, and every store over here that I go to. I have nowhere to go now. I have no way to get there because the buses aren't running.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It's very heartbreaking. It's tough to listen to. This poor woman, she wanted services, real services from her government. What happened that weekend, that week in Minneapolis? Millions of dollars in damage. 164 fires from arson. This is the stuff that government is supposed to prevent, at the very least. And this guy dawdled. He couldn't make a decision. He was afraid to appear racist. So what do? Nothing. On night 1, night 2, night 3, night 4, the situation just raged, and no National Guard. And it's been well documented. By the time those guys showed up, well, it was pretty much too late.